Donald Trump is back to looking babies in the eye again and telling them they're not U.S. citizens, even though they're born on U.S. soil, as he doubles down on his perverse, unconstitutional attempt to rip birthright citizenship out of the U.S. Constitution, now having filed an application in 3 separate appeals up to the United States Supreme Court to argue that the First, the Fourth, and the Ninth Circuit and the trial judges below them are all wrong, that 100 years of U.S. precedent is wrong, that every U.S. president other than Donald Trump has been wrong, that the 14th Amendment doesn't say what we see that it says. Who are you going to believe, Donald Trump or your lying eyes, ladies and gentlemen? Donald Trump wants you to believe that the 14th Amendment doesn't apply to people whose mothers are here temporarily or illegally. That's not in the U.S. Constitution. That hasn't been interpreted that way. And no federal judge up to the United States Supreme Court in more than 100 years has ever ruled that way since the 14th Amendment was put on the books. I'm Michael Popok. We got a new application to the U.S. Supreme Court. It's going to move fast. There's going to be a high velocity here. And I'm going to get you up to speed right now on Legal AF. I've reported just the other day that the First Circuit joined 2 other circuits at the level of appeal right below the United States Supreme Court to rule that Donald Trump is wrong, to rule that it is unconstitutional for his executive order to declare that the mother who's here temporarily but legally or here illegally, if the father's not a U.S. citizen, that baby born on U.S. soil is not a U.S. citizen and depraved along with it. And the First Circuit, following the lead of the Ninth Circuit and the Fourth Circuit and the judges there, starting way back when. 5 days into this administration, Judge Coffenor in San Francisco was the first federal judge to rule that Donald Trump was wrong and blatantly unconstitutional, as he said it. And every judge since then has ruled the exact same way, and every appellate court has too. And they've issued overlapping, as I've talked about, universal or nationwide injunctions. Donald Trump has always benefited from nationwide overlapping injunctions. MAGA's always benefited. They drove Joe Biden crazy and Obama crazy with these nationwide injunctions coming out of places like Texas and Louisiana to try to upend COVID policy, student loan policy, reproductive rights policy, medicated abortion policy, all coming out of these one horse, one judge districts, and then the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals. But now that they're in the presidency, now they want to say to the judges, don't allow nationwide injunctions to be coming out of federal courts. Everybody hates those, citing to some decisions, minority decisions, some dissents by people like Gorsuch and Alito trying to appeal to them. Sure, now that they're in office, they don't like nationwide injunctions. But what's good for the goose is good for the gander. They also said, we have an unprecedented amount of injunctions and nationwide injunctions against this administration. They actually quoted, and I'll read to you from it in a minute, that in just the month of February 2025 alone, Trump administration has had more nationwide injunctions against it than the first 3 years of the Biden administration combined. Well, no shit. That's a legal term. No crap. Maybe if, you could say a lot of things about Joe Biden. One of them you cannot say is that he was rogue and lurching from one constitutional crisis or another, or that he was busy firing off dozens and dozens, 50 or so executive orders that all tested and went beyond the limits of checks and balance and executive privilege, right? That's what Trump's done. To hear Trump complain about, we have so many nationwide injunctions against us just in February. Sure, when you've been in office 60 days, you got 100 more lawsuits and 50 or more injunctions. It's because of your conduct and your behavior. I joked recently that it's like the person that kills their parents and then begs the court for mercy because they're orphans. You did it. Right? This was your goal. Velocity, shock and awe. All right, shock and awe leads to federal courthouses and injunctions against you. So what's going to happen now? 3 applications sort of joined together coming out of the Ninth Circuit, Washington and California, First Circuit, Massachusetts, and Fourth Circuit, Maryland. There's 3 judges from the Supreme Court, 1 judge apiece that sits over every circuit. First Circuit, it's Ketanji Brown Jackson. Ninth Circuit, it's Kagan, the 2 liberal or moderate members. Fourth Circuit for Maryland, Virginia, that comes out of Roberts. Now, normally, if it was 1 application on an issue that wasn't as weighty as birthright citizenship, I would say that it's going to be shot down by an emergency application of this type. It's going to be shot down by the 1 Supreme Court justice, but they're going to refer, it's 3 of them. They're going to refer it over to the full board, the full panel of the Supreme Court, all 9. Now, what is this application about? This is not necessarily about the actual merits of an appeal. This isn't Donald Trump already saying, I want time to file my brief about why they're wrong and to get it reversed on appeal. That's coming. This is to block. Donald Trump wants to block the orders, block the federal rulings, blocking his executive order denying birthright citizenship to babies born on U.S. soil. He wants that blocked so it doesn't apply while the appeal goes on the next 4, 6, 9 months or a year. Meaning what? Think about real world consequences. Every baby born from that, if that were to happen in the next few days, every baby born in America whose mother is here temporarily but legally or here illegally no longer has U.S. citizenship. It's a big problem. And the states are saying it's a big problem because if you take away birthright citizenship and all these people are illegal aliens, right? Who's going to house them? Who's going to feed them? Who's going to do their health care? The states. They're burdened. There goes their public funding. There goes their federal funding. See the injury? Along with all the women that have sued, there's at least 3 pregnant mothers who are about to have a child who are plaintiffs in these cases. Think about the stress and the pressure on these mothers right now to try to get their birthright, no pun intended, lined up with the litigation calendar. It's hard enough. My wife just gave birth to a baby 8 months ago. You think if I had to also worry about, I wonder what the Supreme Court's going to say and when they're going to make their ruling. So this is to block, for now, the nationwide injunctions, the universal injunctions, until the Supreme Court can ultimately, and these other courts can rule on the appellate issues. But it is effectively a death sentence for some of these children. Sorry to put it that way. Let me read to you from the actual briefing, and then I'll tell you where I think this is going to go. On page 3, they complain of their application, the Trump administration. Universal injunctions have reached epidemic proportions since the start of the current administration. Yeah, because of all the illegal rogue things that they've done. Courts have graduated from universal preliminary injunctions to universal temporary restraining orders, from universal equitable relief to universal monetary remedies. Every time you hear the word universal, they mean nationwide. And from governing the whole nation to governing the whole world. Oh my God, such hyperbole, such a pearl clutching by the Trump administration. District courts have issued more universal injunctions and TROs during February 2025 alone than through the first 3 years of the Biden administration. I wonder why. Again, your bad planning is not my emergency, as one of the judges once told me. That sharp rise in universal injunctions stops the executive branch from performing its constitutional functions before any courts fully examine the merits. In other words, it swamps this court's emergency docket. That's that shadow docket thing I talked about. I just don't see the shadow docket working here because I don't think Kagan is going to make one ruling, Ketanji Brown Jackson another, Roberts another. And you got competing emergency rulings. They're just going to send the whole kit and caboodle over to the full court. And then they say that the real reason they're doing this, and the only president that's ever been right is Donald Trump. Where have we heard that before? Is because there's a border crisis. Oh, this is going to solve the border crisis, right? Well, one of the women is up in Boston. Well, what's the border we're talking about? The border between Massachusetts and New Hampshire. So then they go on, as they are wont to do, to declare that only they got this right in over 100 years. And so they say on page 10, during the 20th century, that's a pretty long stretch, the executive branch adopted the incorrect position that the Citizenship Clause of the 14th Amendment extended birthright citizenship to almost everyone born in the U.S., even children of illegal aliens or temporarily present aliens. So every president got it wrong, except for 47, including apparently 45, who's also the same guy, Donald Trump. That policy of near universal birthright citizenship has created a strong incentive for illegal immigration. It has led to birth tourism, where women come to this country and drop a baby. I mean, that's sort of their argument. And it has raised national security concerns by extending U.S. citizenship to persons who lack meaningful ties to the country. Immediately upon taking office, President Trump issued the citizenship order to stop this. If you want to stop birthright citizenship, there is a way to do it. And hopefully that's what the Supreme Court's going to find. You go to the people. If you feel you got the votes, you go to the people. And you have the Congress with a 2/3 vote of both House and Senate prepare an amendment to have the Constitution read some other way, right? Because they don't like the way it reads right now. And they're not waiting around for the Supreme Court to make a ruling. So you have 2/3 of the House and the Senate, never happening, propose an amendment that goes to the states for ratification in 10 years or so. And you have to get 2/3 vote of the states, never happening. And they know it's never going to happen. So now they're trying to do in this rock, paper, scissor, executive order beat Constitution. That's not how that works, right? If you want to just continue to play this game, executive order is scissor, Constitution is rock. And you know what happens in that? That happens there. So we're going to continue to follow what's going to happen. And you can come back here on Legal AF to follow it, is that the judges collectively are going to issue a briefing schedule, and they're going to tell the 22 states that brought this case in the various appeals to file their kind of consolidated or 3 different responses by, I don't know, Monday, Tuesday next week. It's going to be pretty quick. And then there's going to be like a silence while they read everything. I don't think they're going to hold an oral argument, an actual hearing. They may, but I doubt it. They don't have to. They control their own docket. And then they issue their order. My gut is, while there's 4 votes to probably rip birthright citizenship's beating heart out of the Constitution on the right wing, I don't think there's 5 votes, which means Roberts, Chief Justice Roberts, and I don't know why I'm doing Thumbelina, all his children talk, Roberts and Ketanji Brown Jackson are in the middle. Ketanji Brown Jackson, look, on reproductive rights, she's not great for women and for thinking people. But on birthright citizenship, where she's got like 5 adopted children, including one from Haiti, I'm not sure she's going to be against 100 years of precedent starting in 1898 at the United States Supreme Court level and side with the Biden administration. Side with the Trump administration. I don't see it. Now, it could end up being 5-4 by Roberts going alt-right again. He's done it before. So I think it's going to be a 5-4 decision. It's either going to be 5-4 with Roberts joining the majority against Donald Trump, or the other way. And first stop on that train is going to be this next brief that they'll be ordered to file, the 22 states and the other plaintiffs, by early next week. And then we'll get a decision about whether these overlapping universal injunctions are going to stay in place so that babies born from now through the end of the appeal are U.S. citizens or not. And I'll cover it here on Legal AF. Thanks for being here with me. I'm Michael Popok. In collaboration with the Midas Touch Network, we just launched the Legal AF YouTube channel. Help us build this pro-democracy channel where I'll be curating the top stories at the intersection of law and politics. Go to YouTube now and free subscribe at Legal AF MTN. That's at Legal AF MTN.